Hey everybody, welcome. Chapter 5 starts today. Okay, we're going to be talking about 5.1 slope-intercept form. I hope you remember slope-intercept form from Chapter 4. Okay, and there's going to be just a slightly different way that we are going to come about it. All right, so we're going to use slope, not slop, slope intercept form to write an equation of a line. So before I gave you the equation and I had you graph it, now I'm going to give you a graph and have you write the equation. So we're going to be writing equations here. All right, so let's get it started. So the very first thing, don't have to write this down because you should already have this memorized. Slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. Remember that your m is always going to be your slope and your y-intercept is your b. Y-intercept is your b. So y equals mx plus b. In other words, if I give you y equals 3x plus 7, okay, 3 is your slope, 7 is going to be your y-intercept. All right? Don't forget that. Keep that engraved in your mind. Go home now and write it on a piece of paper and study it right before bed because you got to dream about the slope-intercept forms. Just got to love it. All right? So the very first one, it says, write the equation of the line described below. And it gives you two lines here. Okay, number 1 and number 2. All I want you to do is take the slope and put it into slope-intercept form. I give you the slope, I give you the y-intercept, just plug those numbers into the slope-intercept form. I'll do the first one with you. So, we know that slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b, right? Where m is your slope, b is your y-intercept. Now what we are going to do is we are going to just plug the numbers in. What's our slope? Well, it's negative 2. So y equals negative 2x. Don't forget our x. What's our y-intercept? Plus 7. That's it. Plug in your slope for your m, your y-intercept for your b, and you're done. Awesome. So I want you to try the second one right now. I'll give you a few seconds. Give them a shot. All right, here we go. Slope-intercept form, y equals, the second one would be y equals 3/4 x plus a negative 6. Or you could have done y equals 3/4 x minus 6. Both of them would be the exact same answer, and I'd accept both. Remember, you're putting your slope for your m and your y-intercept for your b. Done. All right, so now let's look at a couple of graphs here. So what I want you to do is I want you to write the equation of the form in slope-intercept form, but before you do that, I want you to be able to draw this line on a graph. So pick a few points here and make sure it goes through those points, and then we will solve. Okay, let's do this. All right. So when we look at this equation or this graphed line, okay, so very first thing in slope-intercept form, we know is what's slope-intercept form? Y equals mx plus b. We want the slope and we want the y-intercept. What is the y-intercept? Where the graph line crosses the y-axis. Okay, so when we look at this equation, let's see if you can find it. Where would you see the y-intercept? Right here. Okay, so that tells you the y-intercept at that point. So now what we have to do is we're going to have our b is equal to our y-intercept, which is negative 3. All right, we already have half of our slope-intercept form. We have our y-intercept. Now we have to find our slope. So how could we find our slope? Well, we look at for another point. Okay, if we find 2 points on this graph line, okay, then we can have our slope because we can have we'll have 1 point and a second point, and we can use our slope formula to find that point. Or you can just count up or down and write as the units of difference. Okay? So now we need to find a point. And what I like to do is I like to find an easy point on this graph. Okay, so if you look at this graph, what's an easy point that we can identify what that point is, where it crosses the x and y perfectly. If you look up here, this point right there, okay, so that would be 0.55. Okay, 0.55 would be right up at that point. You will notice it perfectly goes across the x and y. It connects where that x and y intersect. All right, so this y equals 5 comes across, and the line goes at x equals 5, and it crosses that point perfectly. So from here, we can find our slope. However you want to find it, if you want to do the y2 minus y1, you can do that. Otherwise, you can also just count. And when I count, I'm counting what's the difference in this measure. Well, I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So my change in y is going to be 8 units. And my change in x is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 units. So I went up 8 units, I went right 5 units. So how could I write that as a fraction in the slope? Remember, rise over run, y's over x's, it would be 8 fifths. 8 fifths. So my slope is 8 fifths. Now I can put this into slope-intercept form by taking y equals, again, mx plus b. My equation would be y equals 8 fifths x plus a negative 3. Okay, or y equals 8 fifths x minus 3. Either way, I'd accept both of them. Okay, so you find your y-intercept first, and then find your slope. Okay, you could do it the other way, but that y-intercept would be an easy way to start. Okay, so I want you to try this next one all by yourself. Give this one a shot, see how you do. This point right in the middle, it's supposed to cross right at 0, 0. So it might have been drawn just a little bit up, but it does cross at 0, 0. There's your first hint. Now try it. So we already know if it crosses at 0, 0, we already know our intercept, our b. Okay, what is our b? It's at 0. Okay, so we already know our b. Now we need to figure out a second point to find our slope. Okay, so my next point is going to be right here. Okay, notice it comes across all the way there. We could have also picked another point here, another point here. You can keep picking similar points, but in the end, you will notice they are all on the exact same slope. So if our b is 0, we need to find our m. Okay, b is 0. What is our m? All right, so let's look at this. What's our rise? To go from 0, 0 to my first point, what is my rise going to be? My rise, in order to do it, 1. 1 unit to go up. My rise is going to be 1. Now, what is my unit for across? Or what is my unit for run? 1, 2. We have 2 units here, so it's going to be 1 over 2. That's my slope. Now with a b of 0, a slope of half, I can put this into an equation of y equals half x plus 0. Now, do I need that 0? No. Okay, I don't need this 0 in the end, even though it is my slope, or that is my intercept. Without this 0, that plus 0 doesn't really give me any extra information. So I can simplify this down to just y equals half x. And I'm done. What type of equation would that be that we learned in chapter 4? Direct variation. And that is a direct variation equation because it goes through the point 0, 0. Okay, we have one more that I'd like you to try. Here it is. Come up with the equation. Make sure you find the slope and the intercept. Put that into slope-intercept form. Give it a shot. All right. So if we look at this equation, my first step is going to be, what is my y-intercept? What does it mean for my y-intercept? Where does it cross my y-axis? And this line crosses it right here. Okay, right there. So at 0, -1, that is going to be my y-intercept. So what is my b? -1. Okay? Then think to yourself, how do I find my x? Or sorry, not my x. How do I find my slope? I need to have a second point. Okay, so from here, I'm going to pick a second point. Yeah, I normally pick to the right. Okay, it's just the way my mind works. So I pick points to the right. You can pick back. Essentially, if the slope is going to be the same, if you pick in the middle or at the end of each line. Okay, so my next slope is going to be right there, that blue dot, my next point. Okay, so now my question is, what is my slope going to be? What is my rise, and then what is my run? So in order for me to get from the red dot to the blue dot, I need to figure out I'm going to be going down. Okay, so how many units do I go down? I go down 1, 2 units. Okay, and when I go down, that changes my sign, right? If I go down, I'm going negative. So my slope, as my rise, I have a rise of -2. Okay, now we figure out what is my run. My run, I'm going to go right from where I started. So I go 1, 2, 3. Right 3 spots. So I go down 2, right 3. And you can check that same slope if you go to another point, down 2, 1, 2, right 3, 1, 2, 3 would make that another point. Okay, so now that we have 2 points, we have our slope, we have our y-intercept. We plug this into our equation. What is the y-intercept formula? Y equals mx plus b. Plug that into that equation, and you get y is equal to -2/3 x plus a -1. Okay, when you look in your book as you're doing example problems on the test, on example problems in your homework, on a quiz, okay, the lines are going to be much better than this black line here. If you notice this black line, you'll notice if I go again -2/3, if I go backwards, I'd be going up and to the left. So I do 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. My point would actually be right here. Notice how that black line doesn't go through that red dot, and that's just because the line is not perfectly at that perfect of a -2/3 slope. It's slightly steeper. Okay, so don't worry too much about that. Just know the process. Okay, if you know how to get from one point to another, if you got a slightly different slope than I did, you can definitely come up and show me, and I will just take a look at it and just make sure that you're on the right track. If you have any questions, make sure you ask me, and I will answer them. If you have any questions that you want to post to Edmodo, please do. I will be online making sure I answer any of those questions. All right, so your homework start right now. Please do page 272 through 274, 2 through 38 evens, 44 and 46. You are going to be writing down equations, okay? And then 62 through 72 evens is going to be a little bit of review. Okay, so you're going to be writing down equations similar to what we just did in those 5 example problems, okay? So awesome, great job. Hope you enjoyed this video, and have a great day.